Hello survivors and welcome to Survivor's Guilt, the only channel that calculates your odds of surviving 2009's My Bloody Valentine 3D. I'm your host GhostFake, a proud member of the Mutant Fam, a diverse community made up of fans of the drive-in. Today we're taking a look at 2009's My Bloody Valentine, which is a remake of the 1981 flick of the same title. But first, I need you to violently attack that thumbs up button, disembowel that subscribe button if you haven't already, and go ahead and spread this legend to the neighboring town using that share button. Now I hope you like heart-shaped boxes of chocolates that contain actual human hearts, because just like your sweet tooth, this movie is getting spoiled. My Bloody Valentine, written by Todd Farmer, Zane Smith, John Beaird, and Stephen Miller, and directed by Patrick Lussier, starring Jensen Ackles, Jaime King, Kerr Smith, Betsy Rue, Gathegi, and Tom Atkins. My Bloody Valentine is about a small town haunted by a series of murders from years ago that is now hunted by a killer wearing the same minor gear. We open up to this newspaper exposition explaining that there were 6 men trapped in a mine when it caved in, only for us to find out that 5 of those 6 died. And as it turns out, that the only survivor, Harry Warden, killed those miners and then slipped into a coma, mining these miners into our meat bank at deposits 1 through 5. Cut over to Harmony Memorial Hospital 1 year later, where Harry Warden wakes from his coma and goes on a spree. We get introduced to Sheriff Burke, who helps us count up the deposits. We've got this dude cut in half at deposit number 6, this nurse at deposit number 7, followed by these bodies in the hallway making up deposits 8 through 12. He then heads into Harry's room to find deposit number 13 with her heart cut out. Cut over to tunnel number 5, where we meet Irene and Axel, who are waiting for Sarah and Tom to show up before they head into the mine to join in on the party. Sarah and Tom show up and the group heads into the mine, but Tom is a little nervous and heads back to the car to grab a beer. We learned earlier that he is the son of the guy who owns the mine and is probably responsible for the collapse that trapped those 5 miners in with a serial killer. Sarah heads into the mine without him before getting jump scared by Kelso.
Well, you think I was Harry Warden or something? Hey, Michael, check this out.
My eye! Who sees his way into our meat bank at deposit number 14 with a pickaxe through the eye. And we also get our first look at the miner. Sarah runs away, discovering deposits 15, 16, and 17 on her way, before she runs into Axel and Irene, who are hiding. And then this random dude shows up and blows their cover. And then he runs directly into the meat bank at deposit number 18. Harry turns his attention to the trio and sets his sights on Axel, but Sarah comes to the rescue, hitting Harry with her shovel before Harry confiscates her shovel and without skipping a beat destroys this lady with it, adding her to the meat bank at deposit number 19. And as Sarah and Axel run to catch up with Irene, they run into Tom, who is just now heading into the tunnel. But Tom has never had to use his legs to run before and gets knocked down by the miner, who then throws his pickaxe at the fleeing trio, who drive off without Tom, sending Tom back into the mine to hide. But just before the miner deposits Tom into the meat bank, Sheriff Burke shows up and deposits a couple bullets into him, causing Harry to run away from the scene, and Tom to sit and contemplate about how he's used his life so far. Flash forward 10 years, where this news reporter lets us know that we did not see all of Harry Warden's kills.
When local miner Harry Warden went on a killing spree, taking the lives of 22 men, women, and children before being buried alive.
We counted 14, but it turns out that he killed 22, so we need to add another 8 more bodies into our meat bank to account for that, making those uncounted men, women, and children deposits 20 through 27 into our meat bank. We catch up with some of our main characters 10 years separated from the events that we just witnessed. Axel is now the sheriff of Harmony, he is now married to Sarah, and Sarah now runs the grocery store, and they have 1 child together. This dude is the manager of the mine, his name is Ben Foley. This is Deputy Martin, and this is Megan, Sarah's employee and Axel's mistress. We cut over to this creepy house where Axel and Megan just wrapped it up. Megan gives Axel a Valentine and then lets him know that she is pregnant.
I'm pregnant.
Oh, maybe they didn't wrap it up. Cut over to Hanniger Mines, where we get to see Jensen Ackles do what he do best, brood. Later, Tom heads over to Ben Foley's house, where we learn that Tom has been away for the last 10 years and come back because he inherited the mine, because the meat bank inherited his dad at deposit number 28. It's here we learn that Tom plans on selling the mine in spite of the fact that it's going to piss a lot of people off. We cut over to the Thunderbird Motel, where Tom plans on staying, where we learn from this lady that Mila, the person who used to run this motel, has been dead for 7 years.
Is Mila around?
God, I hope not.
Mila's been dead for 7 years.
Running Mila into our meat bank at deposit number 29. Hey, she counted to someone, somewhere, at some time, so now she counts for us. Lucky for Tom, he gets a room next to some really loud lovemakers, which turns out to be Irene and some truck driver named Frank. As it turns out, Irene is Frank's mistress because everyone in this town is either a piece of infidelity or dead. Irene finds out that Frank was filming their exploits and she's not very pleased. Frank goes to leave and Irene goes after him, wearing only a gun. Frank calls her bluff, knowing that her gun's not actually loaded, so she chucks it and the gun hits him right in the face. And when Frank goes to get into his truck, the miner surprises him by depositing him into the meat bank at deposit number 30. Irene runs off all naked and stuff and hides in the motel manager's room. Celine comes in looking for her dog, but instead finds a miner. And then finds her way into the meat bank at deposit number 31. The miner then finds Irene and promptly deposits her into the meat bank at deposit number 32. The next day, police investigate the murders. Tom visits Sarah at the store, and Sarah reminisces about her old boyfriend who disappeared for 10 years. Just an ordinary day in this quiet mining town. Oh my lord, this town is up. Oh, and a group of miners attack Tom at a bar, believing that his presence caused Harry Warden to start killing again. Cut back over to Sarah's house, where she walks in on Axel watching Frank and Irene's death tape, and questioning Sarah on why she left a picture of her and Tom on the dresser. He shows her that Tom is tied to the motel where the murders happened, and to let him know that if Tom tries to contact her. The next day, Tom tries to contact her by showing up at the store before it opens, and he and Sarah go for a walk. He says he regrets disappearing for 10 years, and she tells him that he'll regret the next 10 if he sells the mines. Damn, that's one hell of a threat. Maybe Sarah is the killer. Later on, Tom heads to the mines to talk to Ben about maybe not selling the mine, and he heads into Tunnel 3 with Red to speak to him. But when Tom wanders off, he wanders right into the miner, who knocks him into a cage and traps him in it. Before heading over to Red and trapping him into the meat bank at deposit number 33. But when the other miners show up, the miner is already gone, and they find no redemption for dead Red. 2, and quickly set their suspicion on Tom, who despite all his rage, he was still just a Tom in a cage. Ben finally shows up while Tom is getting stitched up at the hospital, when Tom blames the whole thing on Harry Warden. Matters get even more nuts when Sarah surprise visits Tom, and then Axel surprise visits all of them. Axel tries to make Tom jealous.
You mean my wife, Sarah, who lives in my house, who is mother to my son, who I share a bed with and have sex with?
Axel,
That's Sarah?
Enough!
Oh, big deal. You have a son and a wife to have sex with and a bed. You're so cool, Axel. I don't need you. I don't need a bed. After Axel makes us jealous that he has a bed, he lets us know that his dad drank himself into the meat bank at deposit number 34, when he tells us that the killer couldn't be Harry Warden because a group of townsfolk tracked him down and killed him some 10 years ago, and Sheriff Burt covered it up because the paperwork would have sucked. Vigilante justicing Harry Warden into our meat bank at deposit number 35. The group heads to Harry Warden's makeshift gravesite, only to find that the body is missing. Maybe it's something supernatural. This episode is brought to you by Supernatural. Watch it on Netflix or something. Later, Axel interrogates Tom, not about the murder, but about why he's in town, and Tom taunts him into becoming bad cop.
You know she settled for you, right? Sarah settled for you.
But Deputy Martin comes in and lets Axel know that Tom has an alibi. You see, he was locked in a cage at the scene of the crime, with no other witnesses. I'm no lawyer, but that alibi is airtight. Later that night, someone comes knocking on Ben Foley's door, so he answers it all 3D and stuff. You may have forgotten that this movie had 3D in the title, but Ben Foley didn't forget. Ben Foley never forgets. Ben Foley heads back into his house, but forgets to check his 6. But the miner's got his back, and knocks him down on the floor, before 3D'ing him into the meat bank at deposit number 36. The next day, they find Ben's body at Harry Warden's gravesite, which means the killer is either Harry Warden or Sarah. Fine, I guess it could be anyone else who went to the gravesite the other day. Jeez. That night, Megan and Sarah are closing up the store when the miner shows up to do some shopping. He chases the ladies into the office and starts pickaxing the door. The duo decide that they should leave out the window before the miner breaks down the door. But when the miner disappears, Sarah tries to get Megan back inside, but it's already too late, pulling Megan and her unborn baby out of the window and into the meat bank at deposits 37 and 38. Sarah hits the alarm and the miner leaves. She then makes like a tree and walks out of the front door, only to be jump scared by Axel. And the two of them walk around the store to get confirmation that Megan was indeed deposited into the meat bank. A little later, when the paramedics are tending to Sarah, she drops a bomb on Axel, revealing that she knew about Axel and Megan's relationship. Cut over to Sarah and Axel's house, where Deputy Ferris is keeping a lookout, and Rosa is doing laundry, when the miner sneaks in and launders Rosa into the meat bank at deposit number 39. Deputy Ferris gets jump scared by Sheriff Burke, who somehow knows that the killer is inside the house. Deputy Ferris finds Rosa's remains in the dryer, while Sheriff Burke finds a new jawline on the porch. Makeovering Sheriff Burke into the meat bank at deposit number 40. Aw man, he was just several years post-retirement. Cut over to Sarah, who gets a call from Tom, and he explains that he needs to show her something, and that he believes that Harry Warden isn't the killer. A little later, Axel shows up at the hospital to pick Sarah up, only to find out that she left with Tom some 10 minutes prior. Meanwhile, Sarah is in the car with Tom driving to God knows where, and Tom is trying to convince her that Axel is the killer, when she gets a call from Axel. Axel explains that Tom has been in a mental institution for the last 10 years, and that Rosa is dead. Axel takes the opportunity to apologize for being all adulterous and stuff, and the two hang up the phone. Sarah asks Tom to take her home, and Tom pleads with her to trust him. Sarah grabs the steering wheel and they swerve off the road right into a 3D prop. Sarah climbs out of the wrecked car and runs away, shortly before Tom comes to. Sarah calls Axel and he tells her to head to his dad's old house, aka the creepy adultery house, and to wait for him there. She goes to the house, and once inside, she finds the card and the Valentine that Megan gave Axel, along with the picture of her and Tom. And while she looks for a weapon with which to defend herself, she finds a whole cabinet full of Valentine's boxes, when all of a sudden the miner enters the house. She jumps out of the window and runs to the mines, with the miner close behind her. While in the mine, she loses the miner and hides before jumping out and surprise attacking Axel. Tom shows up and they have a standoff, both men blaming the other. Axel gives her the only good solution, which is that she should shoot them both, with Tom arguing that maybe no one needs to be shot. Hey, that's exactly what I'd expect a killer to say, before giving up the jig by dropping some info that he shouldn't know, namely that Megan is dead. Tom then changes course to the old, "There he is, right behind you."
It's Harry. It's Harry, Sarah. Sarah, you gotta shoot him. Sarah, he's right there. Shoot him.
Nice try, Tom. No one is falling for that. Well, I guess maybe all of them are falling for that. But then Harry Warden unexpectedly pops up in the background and makes his way towards Tom. But as it turns out, Harry Warden was just a figment of Tom's unstable mind. We then get treated to a series of scenes revealing that Tom was the miner all along. Well, aside from the first 27 meat bank deposits, those were Harry Warden. But the other 13, those were definitely Tom. You know, all those kills that started right when Tom came back into town, the ones that most of which happened in places where Tom was, all those kills, yeah, those are the ones. Those are Tom's kills. Axel then explains the true meaning of Valentine's Day.
Aren't you Harry? You living inside Tom?
Yeah, the spirit of Harry Warden dwells in Tom, you see. Each and every one of us has a heart box-shaped hole in our hearts, one that only Harry Warden can fill. And when you accept Harry Warden into your heart, the spirit of Harry Warden dwells in you, just as he dwells in me, and just as he dwells in Tom. Merry Valentine's Day, everyone! But Tom is backsliding, and he and Axel get into a fist fight, and then a shovel pickaxe fight, before Tom stabs Axel with his pickaxe and then runs off like a goober. Sarah tends to Axel and attempts to help him out of the mine, but Tom, who is all of a sudden not afraid of bullets, begins heading after them in one of the cooler scenes of the movie, where each time he smashes out a light, he briefly appears as the miner. And as Sarah and Axel make their way out of the mine, Axel gives Sarah his gun and lets her know that she's only got one round left. Lucky for her, Tom has no qualms about standing right in front of explosive tanks, but Sarah, instead of shooting the tanks, shoots Tom in the side, but with a stroke of luck, that bullet goes right through him, igniting the tanks anyway. A little later, a rescue crew head into the mine, and one of the men finds Tom buried in rubble before he finds his way into our meat bank at deposit number 41. The rescue team brings out Axel and Sarah and loads Axel into an ambulance. Cut over to this dude walking away from the mine all injured looking and stuff before he takes off his gear and reveals himself to be Tom Hanniger, and the movie ends. So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with the 5 miners trapped with Harry Warden that he kills, as explained in the opening title sequence, accounting for deposits 1 through 5, followed by all of the people in the hospital that Harry Warden kills after waking up from his coma at deposits number 6 through 13. We then get this dude, we'll call him Kelso, at deposit number 14, when Hyde pokes out his eye with a pickaxe. These dead teens at deposits 15 through 17, this dude landing at deposit number 18, this lady hitting the meat bank at deposit number 19, and the rest of the unseen men, women, and children at deposits 20 through 27. We then hear of Mr. Hanniger's death, inheriting him into the meat bank at deposit number 28. Then the old motel manager rents deposit number 29 at our meat bank motel, followed by Frank snuffing in at deposit number 30, current motel manager Celine dropping in at number 31, and Irene splattering in at deposit number 32. We then get No Redemption Red pickaxing at deposit number 33, followed by the news of Axel's dad's death, landing him at deposit number 34. We then find out that Harry Warden was deposited a decade ago at deposit number 35, followed by Ben Foley managing his way into our meat bank at deposit number 36, Megan and her unborn child, Valentines into deposits number 37 and 38, with Rosa tumbling in at deposit number 39. Sheriff Burt gets a makeover when he makes his way over into our meat bank at deposit number 40, and we wrap up our meat bank deposits with the unfortunate rescue worker who finds his way to Tom before finding his way into our meat bank at deposit number 41. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Tom, Sarah, Axel, Deputy Martin, and Deputy Ferris, which means that out of 46 characters, only 5 survive, giving you a 10.87% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, who would Tom send your heart to as a Valentine? Let me know in the comments below. And if this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Also, if you would like to support the work that we do here at Survivors Guild, consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/survivorsguild. And don't forget to check out friends of the channel TYTD Reviews and King Needgore. Those are just a few of the excellent channels that you can check out. TYTD feels like you're getting an education while watching, and King Needgore is building back up his empire since YT toppled his other one. So show him some love and go watch a few of his videos and subscribe to his new channel. Alright guys, as always, thanks and Merry Valentine's Day.